Today we're going to be taking a look at Baldur's Gate 3 running on GeForce Now's 4080 SuperPod. All the gameplay you're seeing here was captured directly off a GFN instance running in 21:9, and I gotta say it was absolutely fantastic. But before we get into it, let's talk about the in-game settings. At this point in time, everything was captured running on Ultra settings with DLSS set to quality. I will point out that this doesn't currently support DLSS 3, but the game still is in early access, so there is time to update that. I really do hope to see it arrive, just simply because frame generation is a total game changer in my opinion, but even without it, the game currently runs fine on GeForce Now's Ultimate tier. Now, getting into the gameplay, you'll notice that most of the time the frame rate tends to fluctuate between 100 to 120. And frankly, for a game like this, that's more than enough. It's not a very fast-paced game, you get to take your time, it's all turn-based combat, and there's nothing you need to immediately react to. But it's nice to know that even at this early access point, the game's running already very well. I think it's more than fair to speculate that the game will only run better by the time it fully releases in August later this year. Now, I do want to point out that there are some frame rate dips that go as low as 80, but I gotta say it only happens few and far between, and it's only when the character models are up close and talking to each other. By no means does it happen every time, but I did figure I'd mention it here. When it comes to the visual department, the game looks fantastic. It seriously looks very impressive, and it is just simply amazing just how much you can interact with. Even by playing just a few hours of the game, you'll go through multiple environments and it'll really change the atmosphere around you. They did a fantastic job when it came to really presenting this game to the player. The only issue that gets brought up here is that when you enter a new environment, there will be some slight pop-in that happens, but it takes a split second and then it's gone. For the most part, it's extremely smooth sailing on both frame rate and visuals. Now, playing on 21:9 honestly feels perfect for this type of game. If you're currently an ultra-wide gamer yourself, or planning on picking a monitor up down the road, this game is perfect for this experience. Not only do you get to see more of the battlefield on the screen at any given time, but it really does help you decide on how you want to plan your attack out. And that's all on top of being just a more immersive experience for a title like this off the get-go. Now, I do want to talk a bit about latency, but as you can see, I'm actually having higher than average latency right now. And that's because the closest data center toward me is still an upgrade in progress for the brand new SuperPods. I'm currently connected to one that's a bit further away, and despite that, I gotta say, I'm still very impressed at how smooth this felt. Now, it should go without saying that a game like this doesn't really revolve around quick reaction time, so latency is something you can definitely get away with here. So if you're at all concerned about latency being too high, especially for a game like this, then don't be. You'll be able to have a great experience here. Now lastly, the game itself. Baldur's Gate 3 is a fantastic game if you're a fan of D&D or a fan of RPGs like Divinity Original Sin 2. That's because the same people made this game. And truthfully speaking, it just improves on that formula and makes it so much better. The gameplay, the interactions, the world, the NPC, even the level design just seems to have much more depth. Now, I do want to point out that Baldur's Gate 3 is based on the D&D 5e rule set, so it's a bit more restrictive when it comes to actually building your character than Divinity Original Sin 2 was. And while that may sound like a negative, I will say because of this, it's a lot more varied in playthroughs, and a lot of the other systems actually benefit off of this. That's not to say it's a completely different game experience than Divinity, it's still very familiar, yet different in its own way. Regardless of the fact, even playing what's currently available in early access right now, I feel like it's safe to say that this game is going to be in the talks for a long time. That's to say that it's amazing, and I'm sure that people will bring it up when talking about Game of the Year. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself since the full game isn't out, but still, just based on what I played, I'm in love with it and I can't wait to dive into it more. Fantastic game, and I'm super glad it's arrived on GFN, especially since it was on Stadia before that and they ended up closing down. Either way, if you have any remaining questions, let me know down in the comments section below. If you want me to test the game out in 4K, I can quickly do that and respond as well. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful at all, be sure to hit that like button as it really does help the channel out, and if you're wanting more content like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. As always, thank you for your time, I hope you enjoyed the video. This has been the Virtual Cloud, giving you the latest and greatest on everything cloud gaming related, and until next time, I'll catch you in the clouds.